Hi, everyone. Hi, thanks for being here today. I'm freezing, so I'm going to try to move around a little bit. I'm super excited to be here to talk to you today about my favorite subject, even if I do feel like it's a little bit of a tennis match, so I'll do my best. So today I'm going to talk about from boring to story, how to make your content rule. You all know the hashtag. You've been using it hopefully over the past couple days, Inbound 12. I also have a couple of books to give away. They sold out of content rules in the bookstore, right? Yes. Wiley sold out, which is awesome. So these are apparently the only 3 books left in Boston, probably in Massachusetts, probably in New England. So I'm going to give away 3 at the end, and I'm going to give them away. I was trying to think about that, and I think what I'm going to do is give away 3 to the best content creators in the room. So anybody who tweets this, uses the hashtag Inbound12, also uses @marketingprofs, otherwise I might not see it. Or anybody who posts to Instagram or creates a Pinterest board just for this. No, I'm kidding about that. So anyway, anybody who creates content, I have 3 books to give away. I also have book plates if you want to order it on Amazon, and I'll be happy to sign them for you. It's almost like having a signed book, but not really. Oh, and rate my presentation. This is a surprise slide. I didn't know this was going to be in here. Anyway, be nice. OK. So I am the Chief Content Officer of Marketing Profs. If you don't know Marketing Profs, we're a training company and a provider of marketing know-how for all kinds of businesses. We have about 423,000 people who are on our list. I am also a longtime writer, editor, started out in newspapers, so former journalist, now working in the business space. And I say that this is the only marketing book that I ever write, probably, because for me, it really distills what I learned out of all my time working as a journalist and working in publishing, right? Working in an organization that is charged with creating content to grow and attract people, and also to engage with them, which is what everybody in this room now has to do, which is what every business out there has to do. Because I do believe that your content has the ability to transform your business, that your story really has the capacity to transform your business. I think it's because it's how your prospects and your customers are going to recognize you over everybody else, right? It's how they're going to know who you are. They're going to form an emotional connection to you through your content, through your story, and how it's going to drive your business forward. But not all content transforms, right? A lot of content that was published last year was just sort of mediocre, right? It was just sort of meh. And so what I want to do is talk to you today about how to create the kind of stuff that's really going to engage, that's really going to make a difference, that is going to transform your business. And at the same time, something that is going to be really fun to create. So I have lessons from all kinds of companies, big and small, to hopefully inspire you, but also to offer some really tactical advice, because as I said, I'm kind of all about the know-how. Content is the new black, right? I'm sure if you've been here at HubSpot over the past couple days, you've heard a lot about content. You've heard a lot about how you need to be publishing a blog or publishing a webinar or producing webinars or a podcast or a video like Steve Garfield does to attract customers to you. But I think a lot of the stuff that's out there now isn't really all that awesome, right? It's sort of mediocre at best. It's not really the kind of content that is going to engage customers and really drive business toward you. And in fact, there's a lot of pressure on your content to perform better, right? This is some research that Marketing Profs did last year with the Content Marketing Institute. And we asked the marketers on our list, about 1,000 B2B marketers who responded to our survey, how many of you or what are you looking to do with your content for the next year? And you can see 60%, if you add that 49, 11% together, are looking to increase their spending with content. So there's a lot of money flowing into the creation of it. And this is all that they're doing. And I love this slide, because I think it's a really dramatic look at all the things that companies are producing as a cornerstone of their content. 80% are looking to publish articles. 74% are in social media. 65% are using blogs. And by the way, I'm happy to share this this research with anybody who's interested in digging into it a little bit more. It's kind of a nice way, I think, to sort of frame what we're talking about here. So if any of you are interested in it, I'm happy to share it with you. But this is what we get a lot of times. I think it's tempting to look at that last slide, look at the array of stuff that everybody is doing and think, wow, this is awesome. Look at all the stuff that's out there. But this is actually what I feel like happens more often than not. Because I think it's really hard to make that transition from thinking about, yeah, we're going to create content, but this is kind of the way that we've always done it, right? We've always fallen more into the promotion mode rather than the engagement mode. And that's really what I want to talk about. How do you make that leap between promotion and engagement? Because good enough sucks, right? Good enough isn't good enough anymore. You've really got to be upping your game, right? You can't just be producing stuff that's okay. You've got to be producing stuff that's really, really great, that's really going to cut through. And marketers are really struggling with this. This is the last number slide I have, I promise. We asked marketers as part of that survey that we did with the Content Marketing Institute, what's your biggest challenge when it comes to content? What's your pain? So this, to me, is kind of the slide that tells the story, right? This is the money slide. 41% are struggling with the notion of producing the kind of content that's going to engage prospects and customers, right? They're really struggling with producing webinars that aren't just boring, but are really informative, with producing blogs that people want to read and doesn't just check a box, right? It's so easy to throw up a blog, right? It's so easy to start publishing these days, right? You don't need to own the printing press anymore. It's not like it was a generation ago or even 20 years ago. Creating content is really easy these days, but I think creating content that's really great feels hard. And that's, again, what we're really going to talk about. How do you create stuff that is really great in a way that's not only can you do it, but in a way that's sustainable and repeatable? I think there are two things to remember when you think about launching a content strategy or launching any kind of content on the web. It's that it's not a task, right? It's not a box that you want to check. It's a new mindset entirely, right? It's a way of embracing your story as the cornerstone of your marketing. This is really important, I think. Not thinking about it as a task or a channel or something that we have to do, but an opportunity, right? So it's a mindset more than anything else. It's a subtle thing, but I think it's really, really key. And also thinking more broadly about content, right? Not just about content as a Twitter feed or a task, again, or a blog post, but really it's anything that you create or share to tell your story. So it's anything that you're creating on Outposts like Facebook or LinkedIn questions or a LinkedIn group or anything like that. At the same time, it's also things that you host on your own site, on your blog, also things like your FAQ pages, your product pages. Any of that stuff, I think, is your content. I think that everybody in this audience, though, really has an advantage when it comes to producing content. You guys are all innovators, right? This is the innovators track. You're in this room, so therefore, embrace it. I'm kidding, really. I think I talk to a lot of businesses who really don't get this idea of producing content or embracing social media or thinking about using tools to expand their presence. That's what you guys are all doing here. Like the past couple of days, that's what we've all been talking about. You are innovators, really. Whether you realize it or not, you're way ahead of the game. You also understand the power of social much more differently, and I think much more, you kind of grok it more, right, than a lot of businesses out there. You understand that you need to be using social tools to amplify your message, right? You can't just be publishing, you can't just be producing content without that added benefit as well, without using social to amplify what you're doing and to engage with people on a different level. Also, you understand the power of emotional connection, right? Gary Vee was just talking about this morning, right? You've got to really care a lot about what you're doing, and I think everybody here, you've been here the past couple days because you do care a lot, right? You care a lot about attracting new business to you. You care a lot about connecting with people. And this, by the way, is my dog Simon in the pool. Isn't he cute? He actually was frantically trying to get out of the pool, but I'm like, no, I can sort of give you a great picture. All right, so that's the setup, right? That sounds easy enough, I guess, but let's talk about how do you embrace that approach to work for you, right? How are you going to take these ideas and start to apply them to your own business and what it is that you're doing with your content. So what's your story? I want to talk about just how to get to the essence of story first. And this is a page from the Wisconsin Milk Marketing Board. This is a perfectly nice page, right? It shows a bunch of cheeses on a plate, and it basically talks about what the Wisconsin Milk Marketing Board does, which is to support, dairy farmers in Wisconsin. So it's perfectly fine. But this is much better, right? This is the grilledcheeseacademy.com, also published by the Wisconsin Milk Marketing Board. And the reason why I love this, and I'm sorry I'm showing this right before lunch, I know it's really awesome. But the reason why I really love this is because it demonstrates this notion of your company, your story is not what you do, it's what you do for others. And that's kind of marketing 101, right? It's all about looking at things from your customer's point of view versus your product-centric point of view. But I think it's really easy to miss in content, but it applies so well to that. So your story is not what you do or what you sell, but what you do for others. Just adding that for others makes all the difference in the world. There's so much that I love about this page, by the way. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I encourage you just to go there if you can and just take a look at it. But I love the way that it highlights something that I'll talk about in a minute, about how content isn't just text, right? I mean, as a former writer, a former journalist, that's actually my bias. But it's not that. It doesn't have to be that way, right? This is dominated by a huge photo. And if you click on the numbers on the bottom, there's an audio component where you hear a very sultry voice describing that amazing sandwich in front of you. So there's a lot that I really love about this. When you know who you are, you also can identify who you're not, right? So think about your content, your story coming out of what makes you special, but also what makes you different. What are you not? And I'm hoping this is going to work. Or maybe it's not. Is this audio set up here? To play a video? I'm getting head shakes in the back now. Okay, let me tell you what that was going to be. That was going to be a video by an outfit in Austin, Texas, and the Alamo Drafthouse. Does anybody know the Alamo Drafthouse here, movie theater? Right, amazing. They're an amazing company. But what they do is they're very clear on who they are and who they're not. And who they are not tailored to is anybody who talks or texts during their shows. So what I was going to show you was a really awesome video, and I hope some of you will actually watch it, not now, but in a little while. And it's an actual voicemail message that they got on their voicemail system, on the movie theater's voicemail system. And this woman just kind of goes off on them, right? It's pretty salty, pretty colorful language that she uses. And she says, basically, and I'll apologize in advance, but I'm forced to say it, do you enjoy treating your customers like pieces of shit, she says. And it's amazing to me that they not only embrace that as a cornerstone of their story, right? But at the same time, put it out there as a really engaging piece of content. It's a little bit edgy, for sure. It's a little bit insulting, in a way. If you're a moviegoer and you really want to go to a movie theater that's going to they're going to kick you out of the theater if you text or talk. But at the same time, it's their story. It's who they are. They're saying, yes, we want to embrace customers. We want to service our customers, but they're very clear on who that customer is. It's not just anybody, right? It's somebody who really cares deeply about that theater experience, really cares a lot about movies. So I talked to their chief marketing officer, a guy named Henry Mazza, and he said they were very intentional about how they're creating their story, not just about who they are, but again, who they're not. They created this highly shareable piece of content, and which means to this point, create stuff that you want to share. I think sometimes that we think about content that we're creating, this is really awesome, you're creating it on behalf of your company, but then think outside of it a little bit. Take that next step and think, but would I share this? Should our customers share this? Are they inspired to share it? So I think that's just a way to get to the inspiration behind the content. Is it something that you really are geared up to share, or that others are geared up to share? Okay, so I want to spend a few minutes now and talk about the 12 things you can do to start, or at least to maybe improve some of the assets if you've already started. Number one is to find your one thing, right? Sometimes the idea of creating a content strategy or producing a bunch of content is really scary, and you don't know where to start. So what I always advise companies is find your one thing. Find one problem that you think content can solve, right? Think about, so don't think on behalf of your old company, but think about one specific problem that you think that content could help you solve. And here's an example of a company that did this. This is expertbail.com. Anybody know this site? I was hoping that nobody would raise their hand on that one. Expertbail.com is published by a bail bonds company called Allegheny Casualty Company. And their one thing, their one problem that they were trying to solve was the fact that no one knows much about the bail bonds industry, but what they do know is that it's populated by guys who sort of live in the underworld. They sort of live on the seamier side of life. You tend to hear about bail bond agents on coasters and bars in certain parts of town, that kind of thing. But what they wanted to do was reposition the bail bonds agent as somebody who can really help people who are in need, who are in trouble, who may be wrongly accused or who really do need some help getting out of a tricky situation. So they started this website, expertbail.com, to address that one issue. And what they have on there is all kinds of interviews with bail bonds agents, showing them as real people. Not anybody scary or not anybody who is to be nervous about, but really somebody who can help you if you need it. Number two is to tell your story, right? Think about what is the essence of what we are all about. How do our products and services live in the world, right? How do we help people? How do we shoulder their burdens? How do we help them with their pain? And this is an example of a company that does this. This is Citrix Online. They publish a lot of tools to help people who work in remote locations like GoToMeeting. Anybody know this company? Anybody use their tools? Right, so a lot of people know them. Workshifting.com is published by Citrix, and what it is essentially a website that connects those people who work in remote locations or third places or home offices or so on. What I love about this is that Citrix is a technology company, right? That's what they do. They sell technology. But this is not a technology site. This is a site that's created very much in the mind of the user, right? It helps you figure out, can I write off that home office when tax time rolls around? How is it that you can connect with other people who work in similar situations to you? So it's a site that's created very much in the mind of the user, right? Again, this is the grilled cheese sandwich as opposed to the plate of cheese, right? It's very much about how do they help people? How do they make a difference? 2.5, I'm cheating a little bit here because I had a lot I had to cram in. Tell your untold story, right? What's the story that you want to really highlight? How can we show a side of us that you wouldn't normally get from just looking at our website or maybe even meeting somebody at a conference or something like that? So I love what this Chicago law firm did. This is Levenfield Perlstein. And what their one problem was is that they wanted to show the human side of their attorneys. And they found through looking at their analytics that the attorney profile pages were the most visited on their website, which makes sense, right? If you're going to hire an attorney, you sort of want to know who this person is. But rather than just listing their law degrees and their areas of specialty and so on, what they did instead was they hired a video crew to come in and through the course of several days filmed these very, very short video vignettes with people. And the attorneys here are talking about not their specialty, again, not the kind of law they practice, but they're talking about if you could time travel, where would you go? What did you want to be when you were a little girl? What's your most prized possession? This kind of stuff. And I love the way that they really showed their human side, right? They sort of showed who these people were at a very deep, fundamental level. And I think it's a really interesting way to think about doing your content as a whole. Number 3 is answer your FUQs. Not your facts, but your, actually I don't want to say that. So answer your frequently unasked questions. Look at your analytics. What are people searching for when they come to your website? What questions should they ask but don't know enough to ask? Create content that answers those questions for them. This is Brock University. They're up in Ontario, and they created this video to sort of make fun of something that they hear a lot in town, or something that's said about them in town, which is that if you can walk and talk, you can go to Brock, which implies that it's an easy school to get into, that it's a safety, it's a fallback. But it's very much not. So they created this video, and they have students talking in a very simple way. If you can walk and talk, or if you can walk and document musculoskeletal, stuff, which obviously I can't go to Brock because I can't do that. So I like the way that what they've done here is created a different way, a different take on the unasked question, the unsaid. Number 4, and this is actually what Laura Fitton, I think, was just talking about in her session, make the customer the hero of your story. This is from LL Bean. They produced a wonderful series of videos that I think is really great content. Discover Something, they call it. You might have seen it in movie theaters. They were showing it a lot this past summer. And what I love here is that LL Bean is showing this woman in the woods with her son. It's not content about the 300 series fleece. It's content about the person who's wearing it, and about how walking in the woods and enjoying nature is a way that she connects with her young child. So again, it's about making your customer the hero. It's about featuring them and not you. The 5th thing is to reimagine from existing collateral. And this word reimagine is something that we talk about in content rules a lot. And what it means is to create 10 things out of one thing, right? To not just think about one thing as a one-off. Never think about with anything as a one-off when it comes to content, but how might you express that in different ways? And this is an example of someone who did that. This is Lobo, and they created this video. They're an animation company. They created this video out of a famous speech that Leo Burnett gave, When to Take My Name Off the Door. And it's a crackly audio soundtrack. They created this really fun, engaging bit of animation around it. So again, what do you have already in your archives? What do you have that maybe you're used to or that others might think is boring? What do you already have? What already exists sometimes is an inspiration when it comes to content. What do you already have around your offices, in your archives, in your collateral? Another example of a company that did this was Cisco. They created a research paper about cloud computing. It's a huge, huge research paper. If it were food, it would be a pot roast, or it would be, the Thanksgiving turkey. It's a big, heavy document. What these guys also did, though, was something that I think is really smart. To get people interested in this giant document, they created this short little animated video, which really is more like a video infographic, I guess, than anything else. And what they did also, which was really smart, was to tie it to the research paper through the landing page. So I pulled this actually off of YouTube, but you can see, get additional data center and cloud traffic figures, click here. And that bit.ly link takes you to a landing page, which allows you to sign up to get that research report. So the research report may not be very compelling, but they reimagined it into a video infographic that actually is really compelling. And it also sort of uses this fun cupcake idea. A lot of you probably are on Pinterest. Who's on Pinterest here? Who uses Pinterest? So that's like 98.3% right there. See what I did there? What I love about Pinterest is not only that there's a lot of people on it, as you can see, but I like the way that some companies are really being smart in the way they use it. And this is Oscar de la Renta. What I love about this is that they didn't just create another product page that showed Oscar de la Renta. They instead used it to tell a story. And what they did was went behind the scenes of a bridal show. They showed the brides or the would-be brides getting ready. They showed the photographer and kind of all that goes into it. They showed the runway piece of it, and then they showed after the fact. So they told a story with Pinterest, just with this really simple Pinterest board. It's a great idea of thinking about things you're going to be doing anyway, right? And then creating content from that. And you can see here, there's like 17,000 people who are part of this board, who are following this board now. It's a great way, again, to using these new tools, not just as tools, not just for publishing, but to tell a story. I talked about my roots as a journalist, and I think that for companies who are really struggling with finding the right person to create content for you, hire journalists. The journalism industry is a lot of people there who are really looking for work right now because they're struggling for different reasons. So think about, if your own brand, hiring a journalist to create content on your behalf. A lot of them are pretty skilled in already knowing how to be very audience-centric. So not being product-centric, but being audience-centric. And also knowing how to tell a story in a way that's compelling and that engages the audience. So this is visitflorida.com. And what I really like about what they did is, this is published by the Florida Convention and Visitors Bureau. And they assigned bloggers or writers, content creators, not just writers, to cover sort of various beats within Visit Florida. So just like you might have like the Metro section and the sports section and the crime beat at the Boston Globe, here they have bloggers covering Florida with kids or outlet malls and all kinds of facets, environmental, all kinds of facets of visiting Florida. So it's very much about assigning beats to them just like you would see in a daily newspaper. Number 8 is notice content moments everywhere. Isn't this an amazing sign? Do you love this? I was driving down the road in South Dakota last year, and I actually had to turn around and go back and take it because I just loved it so much. But what I love about it is that it really highlights this idea that notice content moments everywhere, right? There's content all around you. There's content here at Inbound 12. There's also content in your offices. What's going on there that people will really find interesting, just like Oscar de la Renta did that. They noticed content moments everywhere behind the scenes and translated that into something that attracted 18,000 people. So think about that. That's one of the reasons why I love Instagram so much. I'm crazy about Instagram, and I think it's a really, really awesome platform. But not just because it's a photo sharing platform, it's because it does this. It allows you, it trains you, actually, to see those content moments everywhere, to think about visual storytelling in a different way. And I think once you get into it, you start sort of getting into the zeitgeist of it, you'll see what I mean. You sort of suddenly will notice, God, I got to Instagram that. When you get to that point, there's no going back. It's like then you notice content moments are everywhere around you. Create wings and roots. A lot of times you hear this applied to parenting, right? Give your children wings to help them soar and roots to keep them grounded and who you are and your family values. But I think it applies really, really well to content too. I think the best content is very much grounded in the brand, right? And who you are, expressing your point of view, all the things I've been talking about. But at the same time, you give it wings to share it freely across the social web, right? To encourage people, as I said, to share your story for you. So you guys know this person, right? Michaela Maroney, everybody? So if you don't know, she was given a silver medalist in vaulting at the Olympics in London recently, and she famously made this face, which became a Tumblr, Michaela is not impressed. So at Marketing Pros, we decided to tap into this whole idea of kind of creating content with wings and roots. We are a company that is again, all about know-how, all about educating marketers. But what we wanted to do was sort of show our human side. So we created this session about this marketing version of Michaela is not impressed called Anna's not impressed. So Anna's not impressed when Twitter is over capacity. I'm also not impressed by Nigerian spammers of any kind. Did you notice, by the way, instead of holding flowers, I'm actually holding a bunch of books? I'm also not impressed by Honey Boo Boo, right? So we created this, a big push at Marketing Pros is to increase engagement on our Facebook page in particular, talk about giving your content wings. So we created this originally on Facebook. It did pretty well on Facebook, but it really went nuts when we uploaded it to SlideShare. we had like 5,000 views on SlideShare, and it's become a really wonderful thing. The other thing that happened was just like I did with Michaela, people have hijacked this a little bit, and you know, we've gotten some earned media, I guess, for lack of a better word, as a result, where people are sort of superimposing me on things that I really wouldn't be impressed with. So, you know, that's just, it's a very fun thing. Since we started doing this kind of stuff, showing our human side, you know, creating stuff that we hope people will share and will engage our audience on Facebook, we've had about a 35% increase in our fans on there. But more importantly, we're realizing that a lot of our traffic is actually translating back to marketing profs, which is, you know, kind of what it's all about. It's not just about amassing fans, although that's wonderful. It's really about how can we get them to our website, how can we get them to engage with our content, how can they become pro members, and so on. The number 10 is to speak human, which is actually what I was just describing. We really wanted to show that we are real people, right? That we have a sense of fun and personality. And I think this is actually a huge opportunity, particularly for B2B companies like ours, who don't necessarily always think about why it's important to show your human side, to show your sense of fun. You know, people still do business with people. I still think it's really important to think through, you know, how can we show that we're actual people? How can we show, you know, what makes us unique? Again, how can we tell our story? But that's just what I think. Let's actually look at what the data shows. 73% of all people who read B2B blogs are human. That's the real data, folks, okay? I did not make that up. It comes from Tim Washer, my good friend at Cisco, and he insists that it's true. I believe him because they're Cisco. An example of a company that does this really well is OpenView Venture Partners, venture capital here in Boston. I don't know how many of you know them, but they publish this great website called OpenView Labs, which really adheres to some of the things that I'm talking about here today. OpenView Labs funds expansion stage technology companies. But this website that they produce is not just for early stage technology companies. What it's actually for is for any business out there. I mean, the topics that they cover, the content that's on there, it reads much more like an Inc. magazine than it does, you know, sort of a dry financial thing. It's a very human look at business. And in going so, they're showing you what a great partner, you know, OpenView would be for you, for your growing business. So it's a great example, I think, of speaking human. Number 11, we're almost done here, is to you know, create the unexpected, right? I think sometimes businesses get a little uncomfortable when they think about creating things that are unexpected. But you know, Michaela is not impressed was unexpected. OpenView Labs is also unexpected. But at the same time, it's something that really does, you know, cut through the clutter. I think it really does make you stand apart. We're all given this same box of crayons in kindergarten, right, as Hugh MacLeod says. But I think somewhere along the way, we sort of lose that creativity. We forget, in a way, that it's OK to show some of that. And I think in our world, in this new media world, you know, we can't advance from blocks to drawing to PowerPoint, right? I think you've got to go back and think about what is it that is at the essence of creativity. Now, how can we really show our more creative sides? How can we tap into that when we're creating content to connect with customers, to create those emotional bonds? And this is where people stop, because it's scary, right? The idea of creating something that hasn't been done before, something that is more creative, that isn't necessarily on a spreadsheet, is scary, right? What if you fail? Well, what if you do? I think it's good to look at your data, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't do any of this in a vacuum. See what's resonating. What are people responding to? You know, it's a little bit scary to think about trying something and possibly failing with it. I was talking to somebody just prior to this, and we were talking about something that Marketing Profs did, where we sent an email for our upcoming B2B event in October from Don Draper, you know, the famous, what's the name of his show? Mad Men. I just totally blanked on that. So he sent an email to our entire list saying why I'm not attending the Marketing Profs B2B forum. And it was totally straight. We never broke it all the way through. But yet, at the same time, that actually got us a lot of attention, right? Because suddenly Don Draper is saying he's not going to go to the B2B forum. That was pretty amazing. So people read it. It turned out that it had an amazing open rate. It was like 35% more than other promotions that we'd done. And then within the first hour after mailing that, we got 3 registrations. So that's an example of trying something that was really awesome. The flawed part of that came in when we had a bunch of people writing really angry letters to us saying, you guys are idiots. I'm with Don Draper. I totally agree. No, you shouldn't go to the B2B forum if this is how you feel, if it's all about new media, if it's nothing about the old tried and true. So it's a risk, right? It's always a balance. I think you've got to think about this. You've really got to embrace this idea. You are awesome because of your flaws, not despite them. Right? You are flawsome. You are awesome because of your flaws, not despite them. So embrace this idea that not everybody is going to love you, but that's OK. That's how the Alamo Drafthouse, in the video that you would have loved, that I didn't get to show you, that's what they do. They know that they're flawsome, right? They know that they're going to tick people off. But it's OK, because they're also very much awesome in their own right. And finally, create a path for your customers, right? Create a path to conversion. This is a HubSpot slide. They did not pay me to put this in here, I swear. I actually think that HubSpot does a really, really great job with their content, especially in the way that they create a path for their customers. You can learn a lot just by going to their blog and looking at how they do this. And one of the things you'll notice immediately is that at the end of every blog post, there always is a call to action to learn more, right? Click here to download our Facebook Success Stories guide. Click here for our Pinterest marketing guide. Whatever is going to match with that piece of content. You can learn a lot, by the way, just by looking at any company out there that you admire, whose content that you admire, and sort of getting the lessons from them. But I think HubSpot is a great model to look at, particularly for creating that path to conversion. As I said, at the end of every one, they have a very specific call to action in mind for all of you to take. All right, my bonus thing is to have fun, and hopefully you've gotten this message before this last point here. This is FMW Fasteners. They're a nuts and bolts company in Houston, Texas, and you can see their tagline, spreading joy, one nut and bolt at a time. So when I talk to companies who say, but we're not fun like that, we're not interesting, these people sell nuts and bolts, people, right? It doesn't get any more nut and boltish than that, actually. So, if they can do it, I think anybody can do it. And look at what the kind of stuff that they do. This is from their Twitter feed. All set to head out into the world to meet their destiny. Godspeed, little fellas. Again, it's in those bags, nuts and bolts, okay? This is from Mother's Day. Mother's Day is right around the corner. Nothing says you care like self-drilling screws from Intercore USA. And I love the custom mom builds hashtag right there. So again, have fun with what you're doing. I think if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right, right? Content is fun. It's an opportunity. It's a way to really connect with people at a whole different level. I just think this is an amazing gift we all have, really, is how I think about it. It's huge. So yes, it is the new black. We're seeing lots of talk about content. We've heard a lot about it, and I think this enthusiasm is awesome. As somebody who cares about content as much as I do, it thrills me. But at the same time, it's not just any content, and that's really what I've hoped you've been able to see today. And I'll leave you with this. The best content isn't about storytelling. It's about telling a true story well. It's about telling your true story the best that you can. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you being here today. And I don't even know what time it is. Do we have time for questions? 5 minutes? OK. If you want to ask a question, we have 5 minutes. Oh. Always, yeah. Number 13, always hire a proofreader. If you've got a question, use the microphones. Cliff.
Hi, Anne.
Hi, how are you?
So you jumped over Pinterest. How should we tell a story on Pinterest?
Right, so I don't know if you heard it. The question is, how do you tell a story on Pinterest? I think not just featuring your products and services, but connecting it to a larger experience. So in Oscar de la Renta's case, they connected the bridal gowns to a larger experience of going to a bridal show. But I think, you think about what HubSpot could do here, showing what's going on behind the scenes, showing those orange fortune cookies, getting Gary Vee on stage this morning, a video clip, all kinds of things. I think it's anytime you can connect an experience to a larger experience, I think that's where the value comes in.
Hi, thank you. Great presentation.
Thanks.
So we're a company that's done, thousands some odd blogs, and we're having very good success. We go to Google first, take a look at what Google suggests people are searching on, use that content to create our titles, et cetera. It's working great.
Good.
The problem we're running into is, frankly, I'm just getting bored of it. It's worked really well, and I want to have more fun with our marketing. So along with what you said, maybe we'll create some titles that talk about more cupcake garbly-gook, or just something fun. The problem with doing something unique like that is, although it might catch the eye of the person who happens to peruse our website, it's not going to have a lot of SEO impact on Google. So how do I put that out to the media and or just basically generate the kind of inbound marketing with something fun like that that clearly isn't going to work as well as going to Google and finding out what people are searching on? Right.
Well, I would never say that you should create this, like, if marketing for us was all about just putting up pictures of, Anna's not impressed, that's not building an audience, really. All we're doing there is a little bit of entertaining. So I think of that as like the cupcake version of, a bigger meal. So you don't want to live on that kind of diet for sure, but I think it's a nice way to sort of throw those treats in every once in a while, especially because of the social shareability of it. So I would create some of that stuff, a small amount of it. Again, it's a cupcake after a big meal. It's a cupcake after pot roast. To sort of drive engagement and to sort of show your fun human side. But don't stop doing that other stuff. Don't stop creating stuff like that answers those unasked questions, that answers questions of, or that creates, that addresses questions that your audience has if they knew enough to ask them, that kind of thing that I talked about earlier. So I think it's a balance. You want to throw a little bit of that stuff in to show your personality, to attract people, to get that sharing, to sort of, have some fun. But at the same time, I think it sounds like what you're doing is working for you. The other thing I would say with that, though, is that I think there's a fine line between a rut and a groove, So you don't want to be in a rut with content. You always want to be in your groove. And I think that's the beauty of using some of this other fun stuff, because it keeps you in your groove. It keeps your team energized. It keeps your audience engaged and loving what you're doing. It keeps you in the groove as opposed to just saying, oh, another webinar from those guys. Yeah, we know what that is. So I think that's why I really advocate having a little fun. I hope that answers your question.
Hi.
Hi.
I thought that was great. I own a copywriters collective. We specialize in creating copy, largely website copy, but also blogs and books and articles that take people's breath away. So
Sweet.
we do talk about the same message a lot, and not so much with the picture. So I really liked how you did that with picture storytelling and your little gag. But I wanted to just add, really, more than anything else, that some of the things I come across most in what I do is I find that when people are writing, they're not necessarily writing what they say. And it's continuously amazing to me because we'll interview somebody and they'll say something very glibly, very easily. You can tell they've said it a million times before in a sales pitch, but they won't write it. And they don't think that they need to write it. And it's part of what you said earlier in the beginning about, people want to, sorry, it was a previous seminar, but people want to capture the widest possible audience. But I say that there's a lot of universality and specificity. The more specific you are, the more someone can be drawn into feeling what they're supposed to feel when they're going to be your customer.
Right.
And the more they're likely to buy from you, and they'll be waiting for you to give them the sales pitch. You're going to draw them in,
Right.
as opposed to pushing your message out. So I just wanted to sort of add that.
All right, no, that's
Thank you.
absolutely true. I mean, that's kind of an old adage from journalism school too. It's, be broad enough to be appealing, but also be specific enough to connect. And so I think it sort of ties right into what you're talking about.
I actually never went to journalism school. I was a lawyer before. So that's what I'm doing to any of you who are out there and want to be lapsed lawyers. It's a great life, I'll tell you. Thank you.
Wrap it up? All right, I'm sorry. I'm here if you guys want to talk. So I'm here for a little while if you have any questions. And thank you very much again.